In 2019, Ari Aster revealed the epically bright, yet beautifully dark and sacrificially based Midsummer. Within Midsummer, we are presented with a unique cult, the Harga, who through the use of astrology, ritualism, inbreeding, and sacrificial practices create the holy scriptures of the Ruby Radar, which exists as multiple texts, both ancient and modern, as the religion of the Harga is ever developing. By utilizing astrology and inbreeding, they create oracles that, in the example we are given, paint pictures which are then interpreted by the elders of the cult, creating the many and varied verses of the Ruby Radar. Whilst Josh, who is studying the Harga, is shown pages of the Ruby Radar, we see the visage of what I believe clearly represents the Greenman. This seemingly shows us who the Harga are worshipping, a paganistic, nature-entwined entity that serves as the representation of the cyclical rebirthing of spring. We will get into the larger implications and possibilities of relations too, as well as the possibility of being influenced or represented by other deities entirely, as well as the Greenman's influence on history, and why I believe the cult known as the Harga is directly worshipping the Green Man, or woman, who represents a conglomeration of nature-inspired religious gods and at least one goddess. Before we dive in, please hit that like and subscribe and ring the bell. It is the only way I can grow. I have new videos coming out all the time, and if you find this interesting, you will probably like those as well. And without any further ado, let us explore the god of the Harga, the Green Man, or quite possibly, the Green Woman. Cultural and historical relevance. The Green Man is usually depicted as a face, but sometimes appears as a full-bodied sculpture, and in various other media throughout the ages. He is still used to this day as a decorative architectural ornament. You are as likely to find depictions of the Green Man in the Walmart gardening aisle as you would deep within a New Age spiritualistic shop. The Green Man is also frequented on secular and ecclesiastical buildings throughout the ages, and has enjoyed a resurgence of popularity in modern times. Neo-Gothic Victorian architecture holds many examples. Beginning in the Renaissance, elaborate animal-headed green men began appearing in media and art. In the 19th century, the image enjoyed a revival in Britain, becoming quite popular with architects who employed its imagery during the Gothic revival. Americans took up the imagery around the same time, and the Green Man extended his influence through the world as it was colonized. In the current day, the Green Man has made a return to the cultural consciousness, with artists the world over making various forms of media based around the figure, and showing up more and more often in New Age circles. Modern music has examples such as Jethro Tull's Jack in the Green, from the album Songs from the Wood, English band Ecstasy's song Green Man, as well as Typo Negative paying homage to the Green Man in their album October Rust. Roy Harper's song, The Green Man, features the lead song having the title, as well as the album being named The Green Man. The Green Man is depicted more and more in modern cinema and television. The paganistic and sacrificially based movie Wicker Man, in which the Tavern of Summer Isle is named the Green Man, comes to mind. In the show The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, he is depicted as an old pagan god, whose purpose is to bring the end of humanity. This depiction is not entirely inaccurate, when you consider he represents the cycles of the seasons: birth, life, old age, and death. Connections to other gods. In many New Age religions, the Green Man can be interpreted as being directly influenced by the horned Greek god Pan, with ancient ties to the Greco-Roman Dionysus and the Egyptian god Osiris. In Egyptian mythology, Osiris was shown with a green face and was the god of rebirth and regeneration. He is also the grain deity, his green face depicting vegetation and the cyclical rebirthing cycle, as well as ruler of the underworld, an aspect which would tie him to the modern Satan trope as ruler of hell. We can utilize the Christianic timeline to draw a direct link between Pan and the modern depiction of Satan. The Catholic Church's depiction of Pan, his worship, and his depiction as lover of sexual excess, sought to stamp Pan from the consciousness of humanity. Throughout history, Pan was essentially rebranded as the modern Satan trope. The visage of Satan, as the horned goat god, is most likely drawn directly from Pan. Saint Augustine of Hippo in the 4th century was likely the first and the most popular to demonize Pan, calling him and his satyrs, which were Pan-like lustful spirits of nature, incubi and succubi, sexual demons who stalk men and women in their sleep, seducing them and feeding from the sexual energy. 4th century Christian historian Eusebius of Caesarea officially made the connection between Satan and Pan, developing and cementing the iconic man/goat demon that embodies the current visage of the devil. From here we can move to 19th century occultism. The occultish entity Baphomet or Baphomet is arguably, to many, and in popular culture, simply a newer interpretation of the ancient and fallen angel of Christian mythos, Lucifer or Satan, supposedly revealed by the Knights Templar under torture by Philip IV of France. The 19th century depiction of Baphomet by Eliphas Levi in Dogma and Rituals of High Magic is the most popular and often used art of the beast. Quoting Levi from the same work, we find that the Grand Masters of the Order of Templars worshipped the Baphomet with all his pantheistic attributes and caused it to be worshipped by their initiates. But the adorers of this sign do not consider that it is a representation of the devil. On the contrary, for them, it is that of the god Pan. Here perhaps repudiating the Christian idea that Baphomet is a representation of Satan. And Baphomet, while having pantheistic attributes, much like Pan, has been corrupted by Christianity to serve as their Satan. Baphomet, whose influence seems to have infiltrated its way into our culture from a hidden perspective, is ever growing to replace the Pan/Satan imagery in the cultural consciousness, and is ever more becoming the cliched iteration of demonology, Satanism, and the devil within the modern horror genre. Upon mentioning Baphomet and Lucifer, before the New Age and the occult burns me at the stake, it should be important to note that in their interpretations, this entity is most often not a beast, but the light bearer, the bringer of knowledge, he who broke the chains placed on man by God and gave man the knowledge and the choice of good and evil, he who set us free. Within the film, however, this entity the Harga worship is defined as sacrificially based, and while representing the Green Man, it presents an altogether darker version than most modern New Age religions would argue exists. The links to Satan within the Harga do not exist only theologically. A direct link exists in folklore to Ari's paganistic cult. I present for your consideration the dark tale of the Hargalaten, a Swedish folk song, practiced and performed to this day. A simple YouTube search will reveal a variety of performances of a song whose story is as dark as the Harga themselves, and in my opinion, seemingly serves as the fundamental inspiration for the cult. In the Hargalaten, the children are drawn by Satan himself to the peaks of Harga Mountain, where they are driven by his enchanted and magical fiddling to dance, unable to stop until one by one they drop dead. This is represented in the dance ritual of the Harga in the movie, and draws a direct line and influence to the biblical Satan, much more so than ties to Pan and other gods of nature by theologians, Christian historians, and occultists. I believe the Harga draw their name and lore from the dark tale that is the Hargalaten, and it was Satan of the Bible who presented this lore to the consciousness of humanity. Thus the ideas are valid and should be presented, that the Green Man who appears so brightly lit on the surface, just as the Harga, may truly represent a darker and more sinister beast or god when presented in midsummer, and possibly in reality itself, one that draws mana, power, influence, and life directly from the blood sacrifices of its cult, and in return offers them a lush green landscape full of fertile and productive farmable land, and in theory, immortality, through the mastering of the reincarnation cycle and the suicidal sacrifice of the Addis Stupa ritual. Why is the Green Man the god of the Harga? I believe the Green Man is directly shown in the Ruby Rotter, the scriptures of the Harga. The oracle draws pictures, and the elders interpret them. And if I was forced to decipher this image, I would believe it depicts a tall, green man. The Green Man can also be seen from the trees, watching the proceedings. One can also draw relations to general paganism, as well as a direct link to the Green Man festival practiced yearly in the town of Clun in Shropshire, England, where the Green Man battles the spirit of winter at Clun Bridge. A Mayfair is held in the Clun Castle grounds and includes a May Queen, much like the ritualistic Harga of midsummer, and most likely serving as a Green Man-based influence for the Harga. Thus we are led to the logical conclusion that the Harga are worshipping a large green entity as depicted by the ruby rotter, and that this deity is indeed the Green Man, whose historical influence and relevance is painted across the landscapes of humanity from ancient times to modern, or is evidenced by the green face being Dani's sister and the Harga directly calling on a goddess, the Green Woman. And although green women are quite rare in history, in this case, I believe it should be pointed out. Thank you so much for making it this far. Please realize, for being a deep dive into midsummer, this is a very mild skim into the actual mythology and lore of midsummer and its ancient practices, as well as a very mild skim into the Green Man and the deities he may well represent when presented within midsummer and within reality. Further research would throw you down a deep and bright, yet also dark and strange rabbit hole of crazy theories and ideas, as well as concrete history and direct ties within the alternating mythologies. If you enjoyed any of this, please hit that like and subscribe, and ring that bell, as I have new videos coming out all the time. And if you enjoyed this, you will likely enjoy them. Until then, keep sleepwalking, my friends.